Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Rabinowitz, and I'm the Executive Director at Arts by the People. Today, we are speaking with Sarah Greene. Sarah made an incredible video over the course of 2.5 to 3 months called TIMEscape, which we're going to view in just a moment. And then we'll also have an opportunity to talk to Sarah directly, not only about the film, but also about the process. Timescape is centered around the phrase, "My life in quarantine was filled with time." This phrase comes from Sabrina Robinson's, who was a senior at Morristown High School's poem, "My Life in Quarantine." During quarantine, the days are slow, yet the weeks seem to fly by. 1 second it's March, and the next is the end of June. And once we lost the freedom of traveling, going to shops, seeing friends, vacation, etc., due to COVID-19, time became somewhat circular. Many of us had to find new routines to keep us on a schedule, since we no longer could venture out to other environments, like an office, classroom, friends, families' houses, etc., throughout the day. So Sarah created this project to serve as a platform and a creative release for all the individuals involved. During her time as a senior at Skidmore College, she taught a dance class to developmental disabled adults at Saratoga Bridges, and she also taught a beginner ballet class to older adults. All of these individuals deeply influenced her dancing and her motivation to continue to share the power of movement with others. This project involves 3 groups. There's adults from Saratoga Bridges, senior citizens, as well as Sarah's peers. And Timescape will bundle together the various artistic submissions that Sarah received, for example, poems, spoken word, artwork, and dance films, into a culminating film that will showcase the power of words and how there is no right or wrong, and how we creatively align with our emotions. So without further ado, I'm going to first just introduce Sarah very quickly. Sarah, we're really, really happy to have you here, and we love the project that you created, and we were really honored to be able to support you in this as well.
Thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll show the film now, and then we'll come back and talk to you right after. How does that sound?
Yes, that sounds great.
Stay strong, stay positive, fight to move on, and I stop wallowing. COVID dreams are so real, they repeat themselves. Now. 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 Bodies eventually forget the pain. Bodies eventually forget the pain. Inside the inside life, everything is new, in the way that none of it is. Living in Manhattan on the 6th floor of a tenement building. Small sparks of joy, like my Haagen-Dazs ice cream, are FaceTiming my 3 grandsons in Santa Fe every Sunday. Waking up to watch old black and white films. Everything is fine the way it is. Anything new is a stressor. Imagination blocked without stimulation. The confidence I had gained in my writing before COVID was somewhat lost. Living with my children and grandchildren, I will remember this time forever. I grew up before World War II began, and I remember clearly running through pitch black streets, seeking shelter. I could not see my friends. Distilled. Essence. I was a former ballerina and dance journalist. Things happened to me as I sought them out. It was about what I did and what I had discovered. I recently just completed my first novel titled Heartstrings of a Holocaust Memoir. I brought to life my grandmother's voice from 76 years ago. Trusting yourself. Falling in love with solitude.
So Sarah, that was really wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I could watch it 15 times. It's really, really an amazing project that you put together. So we're going to ask you a couple of questions about this. I'm going to put you up on the screen for a moment. So what was the process of TIMEscape, and how did the idea come about for TIMEscape?
Yeah, so overall, it was definitely a lengthy process. It probably took about 3 months in total, and I came up with the idea because I really wanted to create a project that encapsulated a lot of different people and people who have impacted my life. So really, the whole creation of it was quite spontaneous. The whole project involved a lot of different mediums. So from the Saratoga Bridges population. It was artworks from the senior citizens. It was poetry and various interviews. And then from my peers, it was specific dance videos. So I had to gather all of that footage, and I basically gave them the prompt, as Paul mentioned before. My life in quarantine was filled with time. And I had read this from a previous project Arts by the People did, and I was immediately drawn to the word time. Time is definitely a word we often overlook, and I think, especially during COVID, time is such a strange concept for a lot of us. And I think just taking a moment to realize how we feel in this pandemic time and just taking a step back to create whatever sparked like artistic thought from this quote. So that's like the prompt I gave all of my participants, and then they were directed to complete a specific task with a medium. And so that was the preliminary process of it. And then I went into iMovie and compiled all of it together. And there was somewhat a loose structure to my video. I kind of started to segment it by certain quotes and then just certain dancers that I found fit well together. But then as I continued going further on, I kind of realized everything kind of happened naturally, and I would get into the zone and just really be working, and I would watch it after and be like, whoa, that actually like surprisingly fits really well together. And I think something that was really interesting was that it was such a broad prompt for the people involved, and it was really amazing to me how well everything fit together, and I surprised myself how well everything had fit together.
So another question that I had, Sarah, was a two-part question. What was the most frustrating part of the process, and also the most rewarding?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it before. I think the most frustrating was getting so much material. Originally, I had visioned like tons of people being involved, but as the submissions came in, they all were so thought-provoking, and I really wanted to make sure I allotted and gave each person credit in my video. So it was difficult to make sure I was able to space it out evenly and give everyone a piece of TIMEscape. So that was definitely frustrating, but I think my way around this was just working in chunks, and then each time I would create something, be like, okay, does this fit here? Does this fit there? And often I would just be like, okay, let me just watch it and like use my creative eye. And that's usually like and that leads me to the most rewarding part. I think through this process, I really was able to trust my gut, and creating stuff and looking back at it, I was like, oh, wow, that actually does work really well together. And another thing that was really rewarding for me was the music aspect. As you noticed, there was no music, which was funny because when Paul and I were first talking about it, music was one of the first things we had talked about. And then after the first draft, we were both really entranced by the silence of the video. So I think the sounds actually were surround sounds from my home in Westchester, because during quarantine, I would hear the fan, the main street I live on, and I think incorporating those sounds into the video allowed that natural flow and just gave me another sense of like recognizing that this video really did come together quite seamlessly, which I was not expecting.
Very interesting. And of course, I was there with you I was there along with you during the process, and it was very
Yeah.
interesting to see how the ideas that you had little by little started to come to fruition. And actually, I was so surprised at the end when you finished the process, I should say, when you finished the film, because it's not what I had originally expected. And I actually think
Mhm.
that the end result was much more powerful
Yeah.
in your hands rather than sort of just thinking about, well, what if we put this here and that there? And you created sort of atmosphere and
Yeah.
texture. And
Hmm.
I know I really liked that, and the other people that I spoke with as well thought that
Yeah.
that was terrific. So,
Thank you.
um, what about yourself? So let's look for a minute. There's segments within here that are very interesting. The hula hoop, for example, the fingers.
Hmm.
Who are they? What?
Yeah.
Why do we see just fingers, or who is that person? And the hula hoop, for example.
Yeah, so those two people are from the senior citizens group, but I mentioned before most were poems and interviews from that group. But we also did give the option of movement, but of course it was more limited. Also, these two people specifically were, I guess, as you would say, non-dancers. So I think the two videos they sent were so interesting, like just the simple movement of moving your thumbs or a hula hoop. It's like when you capture these really simple things on film, it evokes so much thought that you would never really even imagine thinking about. And I think this made me think that myself and the people I'm around are so lucky to dance and take videos of like us doing all this crazy movement and stuff. But it makes you recognize that people like it's so amazing no matter what capacity we're able to move in. That it's really like a gift to be able to move our limbs and joints in any way possible. And I think giving these non-dancers the opportunity to somewhat move in a way during quarantine where you're so isolated and feel alone, that this sense of movement was an escape for them, which I'm really grateful that I was able to provide them with this opportunity. And just talking to them, they were like, wow, this is such an awesome experience for me that I would have never imagined. And just the joy and compassion that they expressed towards me and my project was really amazing.
Um, what about surprises? Were there any surprises during the project, or maybe after you showed it to friends and family or participants? Any
Yeah.
surprises?
I think one thing I really surprised myself with was you noticed that my voice was actually saying some of the quotes and the interviews in the film. And I'm personally, I don't really like hearing my voice or on video. It's a very vulnerable thing. So I think doing that and watching it after, I was like, wow, this is actually so powerful. Just hearing my voice expressing someone else's story. Um, so I think that really surprised me and enhanced the video in a way I was not expecting, because I feel like it could have either gone really well or really poorly, but I think it added another dimension that I was not anticipating on incorporating. And then you asked me what was the second part?
So the second part were surprises that happened maybe during the process, but were there any
Oh,
comments
right.
after? So we
Yeah.
presented this live, or I should say we presented the video, and then Sarah was talking in a Q&A about a week ago, and it was quite a nice turnout. And I'm just curious if anybody had reached out to you afterwards, and maybe there were some
Mhm.
surprises in that.
Yeah, the feedback I got was really incredible and so inspiring and really warmed my heart. I had a lot of my family members at the event, and they were all just really impressed that I was able to express my artistry through film and incorporate so many people. And a lot of them had like no idea I was even doing this. So that was just exciting, and I was really happy to be able to share this with them. And then I shared it on Facebook and a couple of other platforms. And one of my dance professors at Skidmore really loved the video, and she was talking about how freshman year I was a very timid and shy dancer, and seeing me create this video, she was very impressed and so happy that I was furthering my love for dance and art through film after graduation. And I think a lot of people it evoked a lot of thought and emotion. And I think having through the project, I was able to incorporate so many different people, and I think it touched many different people in many different ways. And I think I'll continue sharing it with people. And I'm really happy that I think through film, dance film especially, I think it's interesting because dance is something we usually go watch in the theater, and it's not something we can tangibly hold on to or rewatch most of the time or recreate the feeling, which I think every time I've watched my video TIMEscape, new things come up. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't recognize that, or I feel different things. And I think having this film created during this time is really special to me and other people. And I'm already thinking about what film I'm gonna do next, because it was just such a interesting process, and I learned and grew so much more than I was ever expecting from this.
Well, that's amazing. And I also personally saw you develop from sort of a person just starting out with ideas for the project to somebody who now I personally would call a filmmaker. And I saw you through that process, and I will say the end result really puts you into that category now, not just a dancer and a curator, because there's a lot of curation involved in what you did. I don't know if people are aware of that, curating, editing, but now also a filmmaker.
Yeah, that was another thing too. I think also at the beginning, I remember you told me, you were like, I want this to be impactful for you and change the way you think. And I want you to remember this moment. You're not just inspiring others, but also yourself. And I think this, I remember as I started, I was like, oh my gosh, I can literally do whatever I want. And it's overwhelming when you have so much freedom. And I think that was something that scared me initially. And getting all these different submissions, I kind of dove in. I was like, all right, I have all this material. Let me just try to chunk it together and see what happens. And each time we went over a draft, different things would come up, and it just kind of worked. I don't know, I really do think art is magical sometimes. And I think with this project especially, it just happened.
It's magical, but you also go with your gut. And as you gain confidence, your gut reaction usually seems to pan out, because that's really, gut is not gut. It's really a culmination of years of experience, watching, doing. So with that, Sarah, I want to mention two last things. If anyone is interested in seeing this wonderful video, you can either go on to Arts by the People's YouTube site, or if you go on to our website and click on Mixed Media. Actually, I'll take you there real quick, just so people will be able to know where they can find it. If you go to our website, which is artsbythepeople.org, and you go to, you scroll down, and Sarah's video will be housed at our original multimedia productions. So you can see it up here. And that's a place that you can return to for years to come and see the video there. Also, Sarah will have it as well, and she'll be able to send it out to friends and family, folks up at Skidmore, wherever she needs to. So just get in touch with Sarah as well. With that, Sarah, I want to say thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. And it was really, I think, as I mentioned, I devoted way more time than I ever imagined. I'm so happy and grateful with the outcome, and the people I've inspired from this project are more than I could imagine. Also, it was interesting I never met most of the seniors who were in this project, so it was interesting just communicating with them throughout, and just all of their feedback. They were just so grateful and so excited to be a part of this project. And I'm so happy that I was able to share my project with them and have them be a part of it. So yeah, if you're watching this, thank you for watching. And I'm just really happy everyone who was involved in the process. And it was such an honor to work with Arts by the People and everyone involved. And I hope you enjoyed the film and watch it many times. And yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. So Sarah Greene, the film is called TIMEscape. The project is TIMEscape. I'm Paul Rabinowitz, Executive Director at Arts by the People. And hopefully we'll see you again soon when Sarah is going to do her next film, wherever that might be. So thanks again, Sarah.
Thank you.